Okay, hello. Good evening. Welcome back to the Law Entrance YouTube channel and to another session of the Hindu analysis. Today is 24th of July. It's a beautiful Thursday evening and we are ready to go. How many of you are here on the chat? Arya is here, Riva is here, player 456 is here, Shreya is here, Nirali is here, Shruti is here. All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Abhi I can only see ladies. Where are the gentlemen? Okay, Anirudh is here. Won't be able to join the class due to college work. Will join tomorrow. Okay, all the best with your assignment. Kojo is here. Chandralekha is here. Sabri is here. He was saying Kal Himlat aayi thi. Yeah, I saw just after I ended the stream. Yeah, the custom stays, the tradition stays. Okay, let's खाने का पूछने. Interesting, you guys are. Okay, let's start our discussion for the day. We'll begin. I hope I'm audible, visible. PPT is visible to everyone. Aaron is here. Hello, Aaron. Okay, let's look at today's agenda. Let's start our discussion. 24th of July 2025. आज के न्यूज़पेपर में बहुत ज़्यादा तो articles नहीं है interesting. It's mostly editorials which we'll discuss today. The first editorial is regarding changing dimensions of warfare. How is war changing in modern times? We'll talk about that. Then another article talks about live animals versus biological model. This is based on testing on live animals, like doing experiments on live animals. An article against that. And the third one is regarding the Swachh Survekshan, which is the cleanliness survey which happened recently. We'll talk about that. One of the articles talks about the acquittal in the 2006 bomb blast thing, train bomb blast, 7/11 attacks, and how that acquittal is one of the rarest of the rare case example. We'll talk a little bit about what exactly is this rarest of rare case doctrine, where did it come from, the historical background, the legal background, and stuff like that. And then, of course, we'll be doing 3 new vocab words for the day. So today's class is going to be a compact class. I don't think it would be very lengthy today. But yeah, let's begin today's discussion by looking at the newspaper. अच्छा हाँ एक और चीज़ before we begin, subjective sessions have started and आज आपका English का session हुआ होगा. I hope some of you, most of you attended it. Tomorrow's session would be on logical reasoning. Please join in at 5:30 p.m. We'll keep it short and sweet and strengthening and weakening based on your demand. So अब आप लोगों ने demand रखी है तो make sure that all of you join the session in big numbers. Another thing which I wanted to talk for quite a few days is I want you guys to invite more of your friends to the stream. I can see that the number of live viewers has sort of stagnated. We have hit a flat line where we have like 40 odd people by the end of the session watching us live. I want that number to cross 50, 60, 70. So what I want from you guys as a request, of course, force तो नहीं कर सकता मैं, but as a request is to ask your friends to join the stream if possible. Even if all of you, 40 of you ask 2 of your friends, that would be 80 new people to the stream. And that would be a good boost to our channel, boost to my motivation. Because it takes a lot of preparation, hard work to bring in this for you. That too for absolutely free of cost. So make sure that you do your part. Do like, subscribe, share, वो सारी चीजें कर दिया करो engagement के लिए, and try to bring in new people if that's possible. I would really appreciate that. Okay, that being said, let's start our discussion for the day. Let's start with the newspaper. I'll just quickly share it on the screen. Okay, 15 lakh Bihar voters yet to submit forms, says Election Commission. And deadline आ चुकी है, कल है deadline, final forms भरने की, enumeration forms करने की for the intensive revision exercise, special intensive revision. 1 lakh voters are still untraceable, says Election Commission, and the list of primarily incorrectly included electors shared with booth level agents. CJI agrees to constitute bench to hear plea on behalf of Justice Verma. So जस्टिस वर्मा ने प्ली डाली है कि एक जो है बेंच कॉन्स्टिट्यूट की जाए जो इंक्वायरी करे केस की. अब जो है राज्यसभा में 63 वोट्स हो गए थे, लोकसभा में भी 100 से ज़्यादा वोट्स हो गए थे, which means the first step towards impeachment was completed. Now, the second step officially would be to create a three-member committee with a Supreme Court judge, with a Chief Justice of High Court, and a distinguished legal jurist. Once they submit their 3-month report, uske baad voting happens in the House, and if that voting succeeds with a special majority, the impeachment process is completed. तो यहाँ पे क्या क्या डिस्कशन हुआ है, लेट्स सी. CGI Gavai will constitute a bench for hearing the petition filed on behalf of Allahabad High Court judge challenging the in-house inquiry procedure, and then Justice Sanjeev Khanna's recommendation to the President and the Prime Minister. The Chief Justice said, however, would not be the part of the bench. I will have to constitute a bench on this. I think it would not be proper for me to take up the matter. He addressed Senior Advocate Kapil Sibal, who made an oral mentioning for an early hearing of the petition. That is for you to decide, Mr. Sibal replied. We will just take a call and constitute a bench. The issues, what are the constitutional issues? Mr. Sibal said that petition has raised several constitutional issues with respect to the recommendation made by Justice Khanna, who is now retired. It argued that the in-house inquiry process was a parallel, extra-constitutional mechanism designed for judiciary to usurp matlab hadapna, Parliament's exclusive authority, and the Chief Justice's willingness to judicially examine the question comes after a couple of days after removal motion was initiated in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. This we already discussed. Okay, cool. Election Commission begins preparation for electing the new VP, set to announce poll scheduled soon. This comes after retirement of our previous Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar, who cited health issues. And इस election के article की बात करें तो that comes under Article 324, where Election Commission is mandated to conduct this election. अगर आप Vice President के re-election की election की बात करो, that is Article 66(1). That we already discussed, all of these things. India resumes issuing visas to Chinese tourists after 5 years. This is an important update that will again issue tourist visas after 5-year gap. And हमारी जो Indian Embassy है बीजिंग में उन्होंने announcement करी है. Tensions चल रहे थे line of actual control पे since Galwan clashes in 2020, and now things are getting better. Meanwhile, amidst the bonhomie matlab dosti, Beijing rejected concerns in New Delhi and Dhaka about China's latest dam project on the Yarlung Sangpo, which is its name in China, but it's the Brahmaputra River, which we call in India. This construction is happening in Tibet, and it said that it had communicated with both the governments. US cricket battles for its future amid power struggle with the private consortium ACE, which is American Cricket Enterprise Incorporation. So ये इनका पंगा चल रहा है कि इनको कंट्रोल मिला था गेम का till 2019 for 5% revenue, and अब इनमें contractual dispute आ गया between US Cricket Association and American Cricket Enterprise. ACE is claiming that USA Cricket had failed to meet its own obligations. US Cricket claims that $1.25 million of revenue is unpaid. So देखते हैं कैसे ये dispute resolve होगा. Alrighty, city-based news is not important for us. We can skip right past it. Calcutta High Court seats Odisha's response in migrant worker detention case, not important. सोशो इकोनॉमिक सर्वे होने वाला है कर्नाटका में सितंबर 22 से, अनाउंसेस सिद्धारामैया. Okay. Okay, nothing important here. Theatre legend Ratan Thiyam passes away at 77. Famous for blending traditional art forms with contemporary craft. Recipient of Padma Shri. He founded the Imphal-based Chorus Repertory Theatre and served as director of NSD in the 1980s. Okay, a lot of people passing away. Almost every day we have a tragic news like this. 2025 is really a bad year. Okay, VS cremated with full state honors. He's the former Kerala CM. Okay. Nothing important here यार. ऐसा कुछ इंटरेस्टिंग यहाँ पे है नहीं. Nothing relevant. We'll discuss this editorial. What is this about? The reality of changing dimensions of warfare. We talk about how 2025 is also one of the year where we celebrate 80 decades of seemingly relative peace following the end of Second World War in 1945. And उसके बाद से जो है थिंग्स हैव स्टेबलाइज्ड. ये जो हिरोशिमा वाला इंसिडेंट हुआ था जापान 1945 में. But he's saying this is an illusion of peace. This is a riddle wrapped in an enigma. Enigma is a puzzle which you cannot solve. A succession of wars of a lesser magnitude continued to अगर चाहे वो आपका कोरियन वॉर हो, फिर वियतनामीज वॉर हो यूके वाला, चाहे नॉर्थ अफ्रीका में कॉन्फ्लिक्ट हो, चाहे डिफरेंट पार्ट्स ऑफ यूरोप में हो. All of these conflicts have been going on since then. And this was altered by 1990s जब कोल्ड वॉर का एरा आ गया, कोल्ड वॉर एंड हो गया, उसके बाद सोवियत यूनियन का डिसइंटीग्रेशन हो गया, फिर 9/11 आ गया, द ट्रेजेडी 2011 September 11 Twin Towers attack. Then terrorism again came to the forefront with that. And उसके बाद US got an opportunity to invade other states based on their perception of what is wrong, what is right. And उसके काफ़ी सारे consequences हुए. And then they again go back to 1991 where they talk about Operation Desert Storm, which US conducted. They're saying it was in effect the first modern era war which would mark a dramatic acceleration of warfare. ओके. यूक्रेन वेस्ट एशिया ऑपरेशन सिंदूर, ये तो तीनों चीज़ें हमें पता ही है कि क्या चीज़ें चल रही है. वी ऑल नो दिस. इंडिया पाकिस्तान कॉन्फ्लिक्ट इन 2025 हेल्प प्रोवाइड सम ग्लिम्पसेस ऑफ फंडामेंटल चेंजेस इन मॉडर्न वॉरफेयर. एंड इसमें हमने लॉइटरिंग म्यूनिशंस यूज़ किए, एयर टू एयर मिसाइल यूज़ करी. This was supplemented by GPS guided missiles and bombs as well. BrahMos was in place. Modern warfare includes use of highly sophisticated weaponry. Advent of cyber and AI has seen battlefields change into complex domains, conflict war zones, advanced technologies being used, weapons traveling with the speed of Mach 5. What is the speed of Mach 5? What do we mean by Mach 5? What is the relative comparison? One Mach का मतलब कितनी speed होती है? Can you guys quickly tell me in the chat box? India needs to adapt. The message is loud and clear. We are entering a new era of tech warfare, and India should keep pace with it, establish our modernization plans, revamp our plans, and think about the future defense procurement. China has already produced these plans, fighter jets, वगैरह, fifth generation fighter jets, and now they are moving towards sixth generation fighters. India is putting faith in its own manufacturing, procuring Rafale from France. And अभी जो है हम काफ़ी पीछे चल रहे हैं development and manufacturing of missiles. What is important is the emergence of high altitude, long endurance, unmanned aerial vehicles that are essential for modern warfare, and diversification of our military hardware is very important, which would have a direct impact on India's capability to fight future wars, including against Pakistan or China, or wars, a two-front war where both of them are together. So that is the article. On the left-hand side, Maharashtra's public security bill endangers India as an open society. This is not that relevant for us. They're saying existing laws are misused by political opponents. Devendra Fadnavis is saying this new law is targeting only those who undermine the constitution. ठीक है. This basically, this bill is regarding putting some different crimes under the category of organized crime. So उसके लिए penalties और punishments जो है बढ़ जाएंगी. That is what it is. Sectarian wound Syria under Islamists is at risk of falling into chaotic violence. So Syria में काफ़ी ज़्यादा जो है violence चल रहा है इस time. Killing of hundreds of the Druze community. वहाँ पे ये जो हयात तहरीर अल शाम है, जिसको पहले एक अल कायदा एफिलिएट बोला जाता था, दे हैव कैप्चर्ड द पावर. एंड इनके जो लीडर है अहमद अल शरा, जिनको अबू मोहम्मद अल जलानी भी बोलते हैं, he has pledged to protect the rights of all the communities, but ground reality is different. 80% वहाँ पे सुन्नीज हैं, माइनॉरिटीज़ में ये ट्राइब्स हैं, अलावाइट, शियाज, क्रिश्चियंस, ड्रूज. एंड ये जो HTS का एनेक्सेशन, HTS is हयात तहरीर अल शाम, that is triggering anxiety in all of these minority groups, especially the Druze. So यही सब चल रहा है सीरिया में. Okay, on the right hand side, spare live animals, move to biological models, ethical problem, what do we need to shift, what is the pledge we are going to take, we'll talk about that. We'll come back to it in our PPT. Takeaways from Swachh Sarvekshan, the largest cleanliness survey, provides policymakers and city managers a reality check. We'll talk about this again. We'll come back to this. In Odisha, crime against women mount as courts and police falter. Okay. Can presidential reference change a judgment? This is an interesting article. Although we have discussed this, और आज के आर्टिकल में आज के न्यूज़पेपर में बहुत सारे रिपीटेड सॉर्ट ऑफ टॉपिक्स हैं, so इसलिए थोड़ा बोरिंग सा है आज का न्यूज़पेपर, बट ठीक है. Let's read the gist again. Article 143, we know advisory jurisdiction of Supreme Court to advise the President on questions of law and fact that are not connected to any ongoing litigation. In its opinion on Kaveri water dispute, the Supreme Court underscored that 143 cannot be used as a means for the executive to seek a review or reversal of its settled judicial decisions. यानी कि जो judiciary already settle कर चुकी है मसले, वो आप आर्टिकल 143 के थ्रू दोबारा रीओपन नहीं कर सकते. द बाइंडिंग फोर्स ऑफ एडवाइजरी ओपिनियंस रेंडर्ड बाय सुप्रीम कोर्ट रिमेन्स कंटेस्टेड. यानी कि कितना बाइंडिंग फोर्स है इन एडवाइजरी ओपिनियन का, डू दे सर्व एज लॉ और नॉट, दैट इज द क्वेश्चन. Okay. So let's read this a little bit. Are advisory opinions binding? The binding force remains contested. 141 कहता है law declared by Supreme Court is binding on all courts in India. And ये जो case है Xavier College का, the court clarified that advisory opinions do not amount to binding precedents, though they command significant persuasive authority. Nevertheless, there have been instances जहाँ पे इस opinion को authoritative माना गया. Example is R.K. Garg case, यहाँ पे Justice P.N. Bhagwati treated the legal reasoning in special courts bill reference as a binding precedent. This was despite Justice Y.V. Chandrachud's explicit caveat, मतलब warning in that reference that court's opinion were not binding on other courts. Justice P.N. Bhagwati का यहाँ पे mention है. Justice P.N. Bhagwati is known for what I would say achievement कह लो या फिर आप significance कह लो. What is he known for? Justice P.N. Bhagwati. Can you guys tell me in the chat box? He gave impetus boost birth to a very important legal tool which we use today. Supreme Court's April 8 judgment delivered in the exercise of adjudicatory jurisdiction under Article 141 will continue to prevail irrespective of opinion. So basically answer अभी भी uncontested है कि क्या वो judicially binding है या नहीं. Is the plastic industry trying to influence green policies? Let's read the gist of this. Plastic industry promoted recycling as a resolution from 80s despite privately acknowledging its economic and technical impracticality at scale. यानी कि इन्होंने promote किया recycling को as a solution, जबकि इन्हें पता था कि ये practical नहीं है बड़े scale पे. As regulations to reduce the use of single-use plastics and rationalize the materials used in packaging tighten across global north, plastic producers is focusing on low-income and middle-income countries to sustain. थोड़ा single-use plastics, इनको एक बार use करके आप दोबारा उनको recycle नहीं कर सकते, reuse नहीं कर सकते. That is single-use plastics. जैसे आपके plastic के poly bags होते हैं, those are also single-use plastics. And global north ने जो है बिल्कुल ही मना कर दिया है इनके usage से, तो अब ये लोअर और मिडिल इनकम कंट्रीज को टारगेट कर रहे हैं. इन इंडिया वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट सिस्टम बैंक्स ऑन ड्रैग पिकर्स, कबाड़ी वाले जिनको हम कहते हैं, एंड सॉर्टर्स इन द इनफॉर्मल सेक्टर टू कलेक्ट 70% ऑफ प्लास्टिक दैट इज रिसाइकल्ड. ओके, कूल है. फादर एंड डॉटर ऑन द पॉलिटिकल वोलेटिलिटी ऑफ बांग्लादेश, सो यू कैन स्किप. दिस बेसिकली टॉक्स अबाउट द लिबरेशन वॉर. पढ़ सकते हो चाहो तो. Like Bangladesh is pretty much in news now, so you can read about it. Sheikh Mujibur Rahman's killing in 1975, Sheikh Hasina's exit in 2024 have similarities. This writer has kept an eye on the country since the serendipitous reporting of the liberation war in 1971. Did the Americans have a hand in this? So basically ये तो अपने book का promotion कर रहे हैं, ये तीन जो book है, but it's an interesting article nevertheless, actual article है. India working with UK on mix-up of body parts. Government trying to address concerns of grieving families. Air India crash की यहाँ पे बात हो रही है. And अब जो है मोदी जी जाने वाले हैं UK to sign the FTA, the Free Trade Agreement. On right hand side, you see the stay of acquittal is rarest of rares. CGI on 7/11 case appeal. We'll discuss this in detail in our PPT. Fewer foreign trips and protocol lapses under Dhankar. Upset Dhankar. Ex-VP felt he had a diminished role. Okay, interesting. Home Ministry moves out of the northern bloc. No assurance from government on Bihar electoral Debate. Okay. PM begins visit to UK. Trade deal set to be inked today. Boost trade by 25.5 billion pounds. Euros. The euros का है symbol. Okay. नहीं pound का है या euro का है? What is this? I think this is pounds. Okay. Modi will meet Keir Starmer and King Charles III. Two sides will hold talks on tech, investment, climate, defense, trade, and migration. Sports bill in Lok Sabha, one board to oversee federations. Okay. Fake embassy busted in Ghaziabad. Man who posed as diplomat. This is a very interesting case. So he had these multiple luxury cars with diplomatic number plates, and he opened his own diplomacy, and he named himself a consulate of a country called West Arctica. There's no such country like West Arctica. And और भी काफ़ी सारी countries के नाम इन्होंने भाई साहब ने बनाए हैं. I was reading this article. Some fake countries names like West Arctica, Seborga, Pulvia, Lodonia. He was ambassador of these countries and had used vehicles with fake diplomatic number plates, an official statement said. Now he has been arrested. Crazy लोग हैं हमारे देश के. Okay, FDI dives 98% on lower gross inflows, higher repatriation. FDI होता है foreign direct investment, जो कि बहुत ज़्यादा कम हो गया है, and repatriation is increasing. Okay. ठीक है. Mass starvation spreading across Gaza warned more than 100 NGOs. Bangladesh Rights Group demand independent probe into jet crash. तो इनका Indian Air Force का jet एक उसमें स्कूल में क्रैश हो गया था. A lot of students lost their lives. Failure to take action against climate change could violate law, says ICJ, International Court of Justice. Saudi Arabia announces $5 billion in Syria investments. Interesting. Jaiswal and Saisod knock India's steady progress. Okay. Sindhu Downs Miyazaki sets a clash with Unnati. This is the China Open badminton tournament. Venus becomes second oldest woman to win a WTA match. Interesting one-liner. Venus Williams made a triumphant return to tennis by defeating Peyton Stearns. Okay. She became the oldest player to compete in a WTA level match after Japan's Kimiko Date, aged 46. And also became the oldest to win a WTA match since Martina Navratilova at Wimbledon. Interesting. Fencer Bhavani hopes to put best foot forward in the World Championship, which is starting, I think, day after tomorrow. Okay, that's it. That's all about the newspaper. Not a lot of new stuff today. Pretty much the same things. Let's go back and look at our PPT. चैट बॉक्स में क्या चल रहा है? थंबनेल में assumptions लिखा हुआ है, ऐसा है क्या? ठीक है, थंबनेल चेंज करा देंगे. पढ़ाना क्या है तो मैं ही डिसाइड करूंगा. और क्या है चैट बॉक्स में? अच्छा, कंपटीशन क्यों बढ़ाना है? अरे कंपटीशन कैसे बढ़ेगा? लाइव स्ट्रीम पे अगर और लोग आ जाएंगे इतना ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. There are a lot of factors. Drop the link of video on Russia-Ukraine war. Did not get that in spite of searching. चलो, I'll see. हो सकता है वीडियो delist हो गई हो. That is a possibility. Speed of sound is correct, Mac. Public interest litigation is also correct. Okay. चलो, let's come back and discuss. Changing dimensions of warfare. तो ये आर्टिकल तो चलो हमने पढ़ ही लिया. Machiavelli believed that in politics one is guided solely by harsh realities of political life, that is, a struggle for power and survival. Who was Machiavelli? He was a philosopher, thinker. पढ़ोगे आप इसकी थ्योरीज के बारे में इन पॉलिटिकल साइंस व्हेन यू एंटर लॉ स्कूल. दिस ईयर 2025 इज आल्सो ठीक है, ये हम कर चुके हैं. We've done this. Modern warfare, however, entails much more than the mere use of sophisticated weapons, use of cyber and AI, etc., etc. Hypersonic weapons, speed of Mach 5. China already produced J-10, J-20, fifth generation aircrafts. Okay, we've done this. The next article, spare live animals move to biological models. So this article tells you that there's an issue where a lot of animals are undergoing suffering due to animal testing in labs. And it is rational that humans must respond by finding solutions which can end this suffering and bring peace to human hearts. Before animals came to be used in these tests, humans were used in feeding experiments to assess the risk of toxicity in American food supply. First systematic test of this kind was between 1902 to 1904 on behalf of US government to test the toxicity of preservatives like benzoate, borax, and formaldehyde in food products. आज consensus ये है कि animal testing is not effective in predicting harm to humans. The findings derived from experiments on animals are not always applicable to humans. And to make the replacement of animals with lab-grown organs a directive principle and an enforceable one, Chapter 4, Experimentation of Animals of the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act 1960 can be amended to include an article which says scientists, labs, and research organizations should consider doing experimentation and testing on lab-grown anatomical parts or bioartificial models of humans rather than animals. Interesting. I also had animal law as a optional subject in law school. Not a lot of people in my batch took up animal law, but I took it. It's an interesting subject. I don't think a lot of universities offer it as a subject either. Nalsar does. Animal law padha maine, cyber law padha, space law padha. I usually took most of the interesting and offbeat subjects rather than the regular boring subjects in optionals. But yeah, fun subject, I would say. Animals cannot be protected merely by changing laws. If the laws which can protect them are inadequate, it is because we have not accorded them their real status by recognizing them as fellow beings who suffer just like us. Okay, the next article is regarding takeaways from the Swachh Sarvekshan, the cleanliness survey. And they're saying that despite the rankings and celebrations, ये जो edition था, this sort of provided policymakers and city managers a reality check on urban sanitation and waste management. And it also helped us make a reliable database. ये जो annual survey हुआ, Swachh Bharat Mission, urban, this not only comprised 4,500 cities compared to less than 100 in 2016, but it was also backed by elaborate assessments and third-party verifications, which increased or sort of strengthened the feedback by 140 million city dwellers. Segregation, collection, transportation, management of waste, to the welfare of sanitation workers and grievance redressal, 10 parameters of this survey are comprehensive. And this is an effective driver of competition and movement sanitation, where different cities are sort of competing with each other to rank higher on this survey. And it provides a measure of the gaps in our journey towards clean cities. And इस बार हमने एक नई चीज करी. We launched the Super Swachh League, which was an overdue twist to break the stalemate at the top of the rankings. So Indore, Surat, and Navi Mumbai, all mascots of cleanliness, entered this new space along with 20 other cities of different population sizes. तो इस बार अलग-अलग population के हिसाब से break किया गया था clusters में cities को. And the member of the league could create new benchmarks and compete among themselves while leading space to new aspirants to enter clean city ranks. That is how Ahmedabad, Bhopal, Lucknow could break into top as India's cleanest cities, this time in the million plus category, with another 12 receiving ranks in their own population segments. Clean city basket has grown larger since one promising clean city was picked up from each state based on progress and potential. वैसे तो इंदौर ही जो है फर्स्ट आती जा रही थी शर्मा जी के बेटे की तरह पिछले 3, 4, 5, 6 साल से. But yeah, the theme of reduce, reuse, and recycle was again advocated by this survey. And the prospect of jobs, enterprise, invigoration of self-help groups was also done. Theme was waste to wealth. As more cities get identified, we must prioritize 1.5 lakh ton of solid waste and its management. And that depends on the delivery at decentralized levels, especially by ULBs in enforcing segregation, collection, transportation, processing, and more challenging plastic and e-waste. Okay, the last one, stay of acquittal is rarest affair, says our Chief Justice B.R. Gawai. ऑन द 7-11 केस। अभी 7-11 केस क्या है, पहले थोड़ा सा केस के बारे में समझते हैं, हुआ क्या था एग्जैक्टली। सो 2006 में मुंबई में ट्रेन ब्लास्ट हुए थे, 11th of July, which is sort of written as 7/11, 2006 को, and 7 coordinated blast happened in the first class compartments of Mumbai suburban trains between 6:23 and 6:29. 187 people died, 827 got injured, and एक स्पेशल कोड बनाया गया इसके लिए MCOCA, जिसने 12 लोगों को इसमें सजा सुनाई, and they used confessions and circumstantial evidence to convict them. यानी कि solid evidence नहीं था, it was just evidence from the circumstances, from the site, from the confessions of various people. And Bombay High Court ने acquit कर दिया इनको 2023 में, citing lack of reliable evidence. Strong criticism हुआ इस investigation का, and they stated guilt was not proven beyond reasonable doubt. अब वापस आते हैं, अब हमारे चीफ जस्टिस साहब ने बोला ये कि they are staying a judgment of acquittal in a rarest of rare scenario. तो ये जो डेथ पेनल्टी एंड लाइफ इम्प्रिजनमेंट दिया गया था इन 12 लोगों को, 5 पीपल वर गिवन डेथ पेनल्टी, 7 वर गिवन लाइफ इम्प्रिजनमेंट, इस पे स्टे लगा दिया अभी कोर्ट ने, इनके एक्विटल पे, इनको एक्विट कर दिया था कोर्ट ने, बट इस एक्विटल पे स्टे लगा दिया। एंड दिस कमेंट केम आफ्टर अ ब्रीफ मेंशन ऑफ महाराष्ट्र गवर्नमेंट्स अपील चैलेंजिंग द हाई कोर्ट्स एक्विटल। सो स्टेट ने बेसिकली चैलेंज किया हाई कोर्ट के एक्विटल को। The appeal faced a technical delay due to translation issue, and फिर हमारे जो सॉलिसिटर जनरल है तुषार मेहता, उन्होंने रिक्वेस्ट किया एक अर्जेंट लिस्टिंग के लिए, एंड बॉम्बे हाई कोर्ट ने कहा कि प्रोसिक्यूशन फेल टू प्रूव गिल्ट बियॉन्ड रीजनेबल डाउट, एंड उन्होंने स्पेशल कोर्ट का जजमेंट ओवरटर्न कर दिया, जिसने 5 लोगों को डेथ पेनल्टी दी थी, 7 लोगों को लाइफ इम्प्रिजनमेंट दिया था। तो क्या हुआ था ट्रेन ब्लास्ट में हमने देख लिया। अब बात करते हैं थोड़ी सी रेयरेस्ट ऑफ रेयर केस डॉक्ट्रिन। Rarest of rare case doctrine is mentioned whenever you talk about the death penalty, because इंडिया में यूजुअली डेथ पेनल्टी रेयरेस्ट ऑफ रेयर केस डॉक्ट्रिन के अकॉर्डिंग दी जाती है। जब आप डेथ पेनल्टी के बारे में पढ़ोगे BNS में, तब यू विल गेट टू नो अ लिटिल बिट मोर इन डिटेल अबाउट दिस डॉक्ट्रिन इन लॉ स्कूल। इस पे मेरा तो एक इलेक्टिव कोर्स भी था अलग से डेथ पेनल्टी पे। बट या दिस वाज लेड डाउन इन सुप्रीम कोर्ट इन द केस ऑफ बच्चन सिंह वर्सेस स्टेट ऑफ पंजाब 1980। तो यहाँ से आप कह सकते हो एक तरीके से एवोल्यूशन हुआ रेयरेस्ट ऑफ रेयर केस डॉक्ट्रिन का, and this was reaffirmed in the Machi Singh versus State of Punjab case in 1983. डॉक्ट्रिन कहता क्या है, डेथ पेनल्टी सिर्फ रेयरेस्ट ऑफ रेयर केस में दी जानी चाहिए। अब क्या कैसे डिसाइड होता है कि क्या रेयरेस्ट ऑफ रेयर केस है? इसके 4 फैक्टर्स हैं। पहला, मैनर ऑफ कमिशन, किस तरीके से जो है क्राइम कमिट किया गया, कितना ब्रूटली किया गया, कितना डिप्राविटी, कितनी खराब माइंडसेट से किया गया, दैट इज व्हाट मैनर ऑफ कमिशन इज। फिर किस मोटिव से किया गया, क्या बदले की भावना से किया गया या गलती से किसी से हो गया, वेंजेंस के लिए किया गया, हेट्रेड के लिए किया गया, दैट इज अनदर फैक्टर। विक्टिम कौन था, क्या कोई बच्चा था उसका विक्टिम, क्या कोई बूढ़ा बुजुर्ग था उसका विक्टिम, कोई वल्नरेबल पर्सन था उसका विक्टिम हु कुड नॉट सेव देमसेल्व्स। इफ दैट इज द केस, दैट इज आल्सो एन एक्सेंचुएटिंग फैक्टर। एंड उससे सोसाइटी पे क्या इम्पैक्ट आया, जैसे I hope you all remember the Nirbhaya wala case. That was a case which really jolted the society at large, and उसमें rarest of rare case doctrine use किया गया था death penalty के लिए. So impact of society is also a big element. So motive, victim कौन है, impact of society, and how the offense was committed. All these factors are taken into consideration when you decide कि rarest of rare case doctrine के according आप death penalty दोगे या नहीं दोगे. And this ensures a balance between judicial discretion and the right to life. तो कल परसों आप में से कोई मुझे पूछ रहा था, आई थिंक अनुरोध ही पूछ रहा था कि राइट टू लाइफ तो फंडामेंटल राइट है, तो फिर डेथ पेनल्टी कैसे दे सकते हैं हम? सो दैट इज द आंसर टू दिस, दैट यू हैव टू स्ट्राइक अ बैलेंस बिटवीन बोथ द थिंग्स। एंड आज की एप्लीकेशन की बात करें तो इट्स नॉट जस्ट फॉर सेंटेंसिंग अ पर्सन, बट ऑल्सो एज अ थ्रेशोल्ड फॉर एक्स्ट्रॉर्डनरी प्रोसीजरल स्टेप्स लाइक स्टेइंग एन एक्विटल। तो जरूरी नहीं कि किसी को कन्विक्ट करने के लिए ही आप कैसे रेयरेस्ट ऑफ रेयर केस डॉक्ट्रिन यूज करोगे। आप किसी का जो कन्विक्शन है उसको आगे बढ़ाने के लिए या उसका एक्विटल रोकने के लिए भी रेयरेस्ट ऑफ रेयर केस डॉक्ट्रिन यूज कर सकते हो। ठीक है, दैट इज व्हाट द डिस्कशन इज। दैट ब्रिंग्स अस टू द एंड ऑफ आवर एनालिसिस पार्ट। लेट्स लुक एट द वोकैबुलरी फॉर द डे। द फर्स्ट वर्ड इज काउटाओ। काउटाओ मतलब होता है एकदम जी हजूरी करना, एकदम चाटुकारिता जिसको कहते हैं हिंदी में। एक्ट इन एन एक्सेसिवली सबसर्विएंट मैनर, ग्रवल, बी ऑब्सिक्वस, बी सर्वाइल, मतलब एकदम ही हाँ में हाँ मिलाना, एग्रीइंग टू एवरीथिंग, acting like a servant to someone. That is what kowtow is. Antonyms are rebellious and defiant. Be polite, but don't kowtow to. The next word is smorgasbord. Smorgasbord means a collection, a variety of different things put together, or unorganized collections or a mixture of various things. That is what smorgasbord means. Every day, the director had to first deal with a smorgasbord of problems before he can begin filming. It's an interesting, fancy word, smorgasbord. And the last word is exegesis. Exegesis का मतलब होता है किसी चीज का interpretation, critical explanation or interpretation of a text, usually of a scripture. तो जैसे अगर आप किसी religious text को interpret कर रहे हो from a critical POV, that would be called an exegesis. This psychobiography that purports to be the definitive exegesis of the late president's character. Synonyms are interpretation, explanation, exposition. And that brings us to the end of today's discussion. Exegesis is interpretation, analysis. Smorgasbord is variety. And kowtow is being servile, being subservient. And that brings us to the end of today's discussion. All right. Father of political science, Machiavelli ko kehte hain. Modern political science. I'm not sure about that. Let's check. हो सकता है, but I want to be sure about this. Yeah, that's correct. He is called the father of modern political science. Political science का वैसे तो Aristotle को बोलते हैं father of political science, but yeah, modern political science Machiavelli. Okay, cool. That brings us to the end of our debate, our discussion. कल है Friday, which means we have an English class at 5:30. Once again, a reminder, and we also have Menti quiz on the month of January's current affairs. So come prepared for that, folks. And I'll see you all tomorrow at 5:30 first and then at 8 p.m. Ciao. That's all for the day. Thank you so much. Tada. Bye-bye. Take care. Signing off.